I'm back, and I figured out what the problem was. I had gone for a run and had my headphones in, and they were on like a Bluetooth connector, and I thought I had turned it off, but I hadn't, so it didn't record. There was like no sound at all. Anyways, I messed up. Here it is. Today I will be reading chapter 33 again. But here's the deal. I want to go back and make sure that we understand what the case is. Okay, so here we go. Pay attention. This is from the previous chapter. It says, pay attention. Aunt Kitty's telling her what the case is, okay? Mr. Pinkerton's detective agency has been hired to keep tabs on the railroad lines in and out of Baltimore and any plans to destroy them. But I suspect there is something more evil in the wind. I will not say more on it, but know that Baltimore aligns itself with the South, and it's full of angry men and women ready to die for their cause and their way of life. Okay? Now, here's who they're going to be. They're Southern sisters coming from Montgomery, Alabama. She is Mrs. Barley, and you are my sister, Miss Matilda Maddox. Okay? All right, here we go. Chapter 33, in which Aunt Kitty worms out secrets, worms like W-O-R-M-S, and I prove to be a belle of the ball. I think we've seen this word before. A Southern belle is like, you know, a fancy person. Okay, here we go. Can't remember who's speaking here. Miss Matilda Maddox, you are the wittiest, most fascinating flower to bloom in Baltimore in years. Good gravy, if what I was dishing out was considered witty, then these dunderheads must spend all their livelong days under a rock. Nevertheless, I batted my eyes and waved my dainty black fan at my four companions, trying hard to appear like I was enjoying their company. I shot a look over at Aunt Kitty in her flouncy blue gown, laughing and talking at the center of her own circle of wild-eyed Southern hospitality. I knew we were Mr. Pinkerton's only detectives at the Barnum Hotel tonight. I'd overheard Aunt Kitty say Hattie Lawton and Detective Webster had already slipped off to the town of Perrymansville, not far from here, where they were to pass themselves off as husband and wife and learn what secrets they could. While the Barnum Hotel was teeming with life, I was enjoying it with a particularly noisy quartet of rabble-rousers. They surrounded me in chairs and on their knees, and I scanned their young faces. I figured their ages were about 16, and they must have taken me for thereabouts too, though I was only 13, give or take. If you recall from last time, Detective Webster thought that she had been looking much older and stuff, and with the outfits and everything. So she's got this whole crowd of boys around her, like, listening to her. Beneath the miles and miles of petticoats I was wearing to fill out my shiny green skirt, I shuffled my boots and tried to get comfortable on the stiff sofa. But it was no use, as one of the dim boys pressed in a little closer and crunched my gown under his knee. I batted my eyes and tried to make sense of their blustery, boastful talk. "That devil Lincoln is soon to be riding the train through Baltimore," began the baby-faced rogue who was kneeling on my costume. "On his way to Washington, yes," continued the second, shouting over his companion for a chance to sound brave. "But he won't leave Baltimore alive." And not to be outdone, the third and fourth cohorts raised their voices and their fists, vowing, "The abolitionist traitor will never take the oath of office, not if there's a son of the South alive to stop him." I'd read enough newspapers. Oh, let's recall, an abolitionist means, we talked about this one before, to abolish slavery. Okay, so an abolitionist, Abraham Lincoln was an abolitionist. He didn't want slavery to be around anymore. I'd read enough newspapers by now to know about abolitionists, and I did not think the term deserved to go hand in hand with the word traitor. Traitor is somebody who goes against their people, against their country. I fanned my face a little faster and resisted the urge to smack these blithering cretins roundly on their hot heads. I listened keenly to their brave talk, but my attention was distracted by a lively table just a few quick steps away. Seated at their party were two men, both handsome, with heads of wavy black hair and well-shaped mustaches, who appeared alarmingly familiar to me. I knew those faces, but how? And what if they recognized me? Would they call out, "Penelope Potter, we meet again," or holler, "Allie, the fortune teller's assistant," or "Miss Charity Englehart, what a pleasure"? Those are her past disguises, her past aliases. I held my fan steady before my cheeks and peered over it as my four secessionist simpletons continued puffing their chests like a bunch of barnyard roosters. Ha-ha, simile. Puffing their chests like roosters do. And remember, the word secessionist is the want to leave the United States of America. Suddenly, the two mustached men rose from their table, and leaving their dining companions behind, began walking towards our group with great purpose. I couldn't help but gasp and lower my eyes, shielding my identity beneath the brim of my black bonnet, which Aunt Kitty had befeathered with practically an entire bird. "Good to see you again, sirs," yelled the rebel to my right, now leaping to his feet and grinding my beautiful skirt beneath his manure-encrusted boot. Ew, poop on his boots. He was vigorously shaking the hands of the two familiar men as if they were old friends. Then he began boisterously introducing the members of our party. When he at last came to me, I could feel my heart pounding in my throat for fear that my identity was about to be revealed. Our entire operation seemed doomed as I rose to my feet. "And Miss Matilda Maddox," the baby-faced rebel was saying. His cheeks glowed splotchy red from excitement. "I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Edwin Booth and his brother, John Wilkes Booth." Did you watch the Brain Pop videos? Because then maybe you might know who John Wilkes Booth is. They are among our most talented theater actors here in Baltimore. If you were to read the newspapers, Miss Matilda, you would know all about them. I wanted nothing more than to stomp on his toes with my own heavy boot and call him an illiterate oaf. I probably read more newspapers in 1 week than he'd read in his entire lifetime. But instead, I fanned myself and gave a friendly curtsy, nearly overcome with relief that the strangers and I were not acquainted. I merely knew them from the theater posters posted around town. Okay. "We were just investigating the music we're hearing," said one of the Booth brothers, twisting the end of his mustache. "There seems to be dancing in the grand ballroom." And before I could say Yankee Doodle, I was swept onto the marble dance floor and forced to divide my time among 4 of the South's clumsiest rock-footed mutineers. She had to dance with them, the 4 boys. "I believe I have had quite enough of rebels," I announced a few hours later, once Aunt Kitty and I finally retired to our room upstairs. I threw myself onto the bed and freed my sweaty feet from the brown boots. When they weren't talking about stopping Abe Lincoln from becoming president, they were going on and on about the barber at the hotel. They said a northerner shouldn't get too close to his shaving blade. All right, so she was kind of hanging out with this group of rebels, okay? So people that were trying to maybe cause some trouble or go against what they're supposed to be doing, okay? So that was what she was trying to do, was see if she could get any information out of them. And interesting, she says this. They kept talking about a northerner, a barber shop, a barber at the hotel. So a barber is, somebody who cuts hair, okay? And a barber, a traditional barber, with the old poles with the red, white, and blue, a traditional barber also shaves, so takes care of men's faces, and mainly men, their hair and faces, okay? And they said a northerner shouldn't get too close to his shaving blade, meaning that he might hurt somebody who's from the north, who is an abolitionist. The way they talk, you'd think the two were linked somehow. Is it possible Mr. Lincoln is due for a shave when he passes through Baltimore? Aunt Kitty paced the room, trying to make sense of what we picked up from our Southern companions. While she must have been tuckered out from pretending to be Mrs. Barley and insinuating herself into the highest levels of Southern society, she didn't show it. Ferradoni, she muttered. I could not catch the pronunciation. I believe that is the barber you heard about, too. The name sounded from Italy or Corsica, I believe. The brutes I was with called him Ferrandini. Do you think he knows how to make that Italian dish we ate in Mississippi? I hollered, hopping up from the bed in my bare feet and ready to go call on the suspicious barber. Macaroni Italian with fromage, the most wonderful dish I ever tasted. So she's equating that this guy has a name that sounds like it's Italian with the Italian food that she had on the last trip and thinks he can make it. Aunt Kitty stopped her pacing and glared at me. Of course, I got the hint and hopped back onto the bed, taking a bite out of the bright red apple from the bedside bowl. I believe you've got it right, Nell. This suspicious barber is someone Mr. Pinkerton needs to visit. We must get a telegraph off as quickly as possible. Aunt Kitty's pen moved furiously across the page as she perched at a desk near the foot of our beds. I quickly escaped my gown and corset and propped my overworked feet on the pillow to air them out. I shifted gingerly on the bed, my back stiff from bearing the weight of all those petticoats. Perhaps wearing 10 was too many. 10 petticoats? That was to make her skirt get big. But that just gets heavy and makes you, that would be annoying just to have so much on. I believe I know when it will happen, Aunt Kitty said quietly as she dipped her pen into the inkwell. And we know who is involved. The way things are shaping up now, it's much more than the railroads that need protecting now. I listened to the scratch of the pen's nib and burned with curiosity. When it will happen? What did Aunt Kitty mean by that? What was she telling Mr. Pinkerton? I could peek at the page, but I knew Aunt Kitty did the same thing as me and Gemma. She wrote her messages to Mr. Pinkerton in code. I stole a quick glance at her paper, the loopy cursive writing as neat and tidy as her hair. Nuts to Philadelphia and Harrisburg, she wrote. Nuts, like N-U-T-S, to Philadelphia and Harrisburg. I know for a fact Philadelphia and Harrisburg are cities in Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, which is not where we are. We're in Maryland. There's a couple states between them, I believe. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think on my feet here. I took another noisy bite of my apple and mulled this over. We were risking our skins in this hornet's nest for some nuts? What did that message mean? Gemma could figure it out. If only she were here to read it with me. I pulled out my cigar box and sifted through it until I came across Gemma's most recent letter, sent at Christmas time. Okay. Lots going on. Also kind of just leading up to the action, so getting clues. The title of this chapter was in which Aunt Kitty worms out secrets and I proved to be a belle of the ball. So she was the belle of the ball because all the boys were around her and wanting to talk to her. And Aunt Kitty got out something about this barber having something to do with it, something suspicious here. Okay, we also met a character named John Wilkes Booth, who's a theater actor. Very interesting stuff today. Hopefully you can hear me